which intros are going to be.
Well, good morning. I believe this is my first ever live stream on these social panels. It's early morning, Saturday, June 28th in Texas, and I'm joined by my friend and nemesis in different worlds, John Coleman. And we want to give you a little teaser of something that's coming up. In the background over the last few weeks, a lot of these people who call themselves flow practitioners have been working to unify their opinions and thoughts on Kanban, used mainly in the context of software, but also in knowledge work, non-manufacturing. Something that's driven me bonkers for years, as you'll know from my social media posts and my comments and opinions. But I was asked if I would participate in a collaboration of different practitioners from different walks of life, the theory of constraints folks, the manufacturing folks, software folks, and I'll ask John about this in a second, to try and bring together our thinking and thoughts and to try and give you, the users, the practitioners, the experts in the industry, a way to make sense of the differences when people say, I use Kanban, and Nigel goes, no, you don't. And I use a pull system, and I go, no, you don't. So it was an effort to do that, and I've had an amazing time doing that in the last few weeks. John, what was your motivation? Because you're the architect of this, and you're known for being the architect of other things. Not everything I agree with, as you well know.
Yeah.
But you sort of came to me about this. So what was your thinking and your motivation behind this?
So yeah, my motivation all along with the original Kanban guide was flow diversity, Kanban diversity, trying to curate some of the ideas from the different communities and pulling them together in some kind of coherent way. And a lot has changed. And of course, I was involved in the recent update to Kanban guide in May 2025. But actually, something has been kind of nagging me for a while, which is coherence. So how coherent is what I was writing with what happened in Toyota, for example? And I appreciate Kanban and Toyota, a completely different thing. Maybe we should have called it something else, but we are where we are, kind of thing, right? But so how could we kind of explain it without upsetting a load of people from that world, but also, how can we bring value more into the center? Because if you're not careful, you can end up with a situation where you're optimizing the flow of outputs. And yes, the quicker you deliver outputs, the quicker you can get feedback that you're on the right track and all that. But I actually like an idea that I got in the flight levels community, which is, when you deliver that thing, maybe we should ask, did we hit the bullseye? Did that do what you were hoping for? Oh, it didn't. Oh, okay. So let's do some rework, and we know as well from the product management community as well and product design, we know that there's a very high chance that when you deliver something, it won't be what they want, actually, the people want. And not because we did a bad job or because people didn't explain properly, it's because actually we all struggle really to communicate. And we all actually really struggle to understand what we want. So really what we want to do is, yes, we do want to have, quick delivery and all that. We want to be effective. We want to be balanced. We don't want people to be overwhelmed, but we need to not forget about value. So bringing value metrics into in alongside the flow metrics was a big step here, and something I'm looking forward to sharing.
Well, you've pulled up a bunch of things that I'm going to immediately seize on. So for everybody who's just figuring out this broadcast, or you're watching the recording of it, the 2nd of July will be the official launch party, 12 Eastern, 11 Central, and 5 p.m. UK, 6 p.m. European time, for people wanting to learn about what this fork, and we've reached a fork in the road where many practitioners have said we need to go off in this direction and bring together different ideas and different perspectives into a document that sort of unifies thinking, but doesn't exclude thinking. I think that's the important thing. You talk about value. My work is on the flow of value. The whole work behind the flow system is about creating or helping systems deliver value in the most effective way. When we talk about Kanban, the literal translation is signboard or billboard in Japanese. So we are talking about the signaling aspect of Kanban, and that will become very relevant when we reveal the content of the guide once the final checks on grammar and English and nuances have been made. And the difference between a stable low variation system and a system that has some instability by nature of its design and higher variation work, knowledge work, software development isn't manufacturing. So there's a difference between those two things. And of course, you mentioned flow metrics, a thing that's needled and aggravated me extensively. Yeah. So we've done a lot of work in the community across the various different partnerships in different aspects of the flow communities to bring an explanation of these metrics as an appendix to the document. So you've got a choice of what works in your context, but also an understanding of what those metrics are. We were talking this morning about takt time. Takt time is a foundational, fundamental measurement for lean practitioners and Toyota practitioners in the manufacturing world. So it's important to explain that, but it may not have direct application in a high variation world where it's very hard to get an exact time per unit of work that's being done. So these types of concepts, we think we've found the right language in the community to convey an understanding to the general practitioner and the people who are new to this way of using Kanban as a technique to help you visualize work. And I think that was the one thing John and I, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, John, came up with. The most important thing we think in all of this work is to make work visible, to understand how we do the work so we can improve how we do the work. John, I don't know if you've got any comments on that.
Yeah, totally. And we've also fleshed out as well about improvement. That improvement doesn't have to be small, doesn't have to be an evolution. Could actually be a structural change you might need if you're aware there's something massive kind of getting in the way. I struggled personally with language as well around how long things take in the Kanban world. And there's lots of different terms out there. And I actually wrote an addendum to Kanban guide in 2019, 2020, published in 2020, where we had a diagram that Andy Carmack was involved in, all the different types of times that people use. And I still find it confusing, lead time, flow time, cycle time, and all these kind of things. And there's different contexts as well, where, for example, cycle time is understood differently. And I thought it was noise that wasn't helping. And one of the things about Kanban guide is it kind of explains that really we're talking about elapsed time. And so maybe a complicated, but maybe also a straightforward way of explaining it is elapsed time from started to finished. You can have a started point wherever you want on the board and a finish point wherever you want on the board. You can have more than one pair of started and finished. We talk more about pairs as well of started points and finish points, because if you're really good with Kanban, you'll be thinking about, okay, my team's doing all right, but maybe I need to look a little bit upstream or a little bit downstream. And yeah, my team did this, okay, but am I checking for feedback? Am I also checking for, am I responding to the feedback? Am I also checking for, am I responding to the feedback? Is the customer satisfied with what I'm giving? So you could have a number of different start and finish points. And so we've been clearer about that.
Just on that, I think that's a really important point, because a lot of my bugbears have been around using lean metrics and measures in complex work or work that isn't predictable. I debate sometimes whether it is truly complex, but let's just use that as a generic term for now. So I think the fact that we're looking at elapsed time between a start and finish pair is very useful construct or concept. And across a Kanban board, or a board that visualizes your workflow, which is what we're effectively talking about, there are many start and end points depending on how many steps in the process, how many waiting or queuing columns there are for works waiting to start in a process. And I think that that's really important, and that's helped us address the fact of push versus pull, and that we sort of did. We don't explicitly call it push pull, but we do talk about the characteristics of a system using work in process limits or work in progress limits, whichever your flavor is. So I think those clarifications for me have been extremely valuable. And I think what you've done, and I used the joke, about an arch nemesis. We don't always agree. You and I have had some pretty terse conversations over time about a lot of things, notwithstanding the Scrum expansion pack.
Yeah.
But the reality of it here is that there was a need for us to stop fighting and start agreeing, not just you and I, but across the flow community. People from the sort of theory of constraints side, you mentioned flight levels, there's other parts of the community have participated. There's some very, very clever people. And I think we've come up with language that doesn't exclude anybody. It includes everybody, but it also doesn't add confusion. The guide itself is simple. It's a very simple explanation. I think the language in it is pretty good that everybody's come up with. And I think then it has the extra appendix, which allows people to say, okay, I come from this world that I understand. These measurements are useful in my context, but using this approach. And I think that was missing. And I'm really pleased that we've managed to pull this together. It might not be perfect for everybody. You're never going to please all the people all the time. But the fact the word open is in this title indicates that there will be an opportunity for anybody to contribute to clarification and improvement. John, if you want to just mention
that's right. We're basically going to open source it. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that technically. I think we did. That's one of the things we did well with Scrum expansion. It's open source and there's lots of interaction. I'm not sure I have all the technical support I need for this particular thing, but I'm going to try and do something as close as I can get, using something like GitHub or something open sourcey, where we're having really good conversations about how we can do update. Also, the updates will be more frequent as well. So probably every few months, because things are changing so quickly. Even the whole concept of time units, a lot of people are talking about days and weeks at the moment, and I don't know, maybe the promises all these new technological advances won't really come true and productivity doesn't improve at all. But it seems to be there's light at the end of the tunnel. Like you've seen things from vibe coding, there's little problems there as well, but we're seeing that people can prototype more quickly. For example, literally have an idea and within 20 minutes you have something. So for some people, their elapsed times might be coming down to minutes and hours, not
even seconds, when we start to get into the agentic world. But fortunately, we're not building a guide for AI. I'll let somebody else try and do that.
Exactly.
We'll catch up at some point in the future. John, I think this has been a great 12-13 minute teaser. I invite everybody to join us if possible on July 2nd. There's again 11 Central, makes it 9 Pacific, 12 Eastern, 5 in the UK, 6 in Central Europe, and then whatever it is in your part of the world. And come and learn what we've done, learn how the community have come together, worked together, and collaborated together to bring together a unifying text, which is easy to read. It's very lightweight. It's only on about 8 pages, so it's not a gigantic book. And I think we've achieved a language that I'm happy with, and that's really hard to please me. So, and the fact that everybody else, a lot of my nemesis in the flow world and the Kanban and agile lean communities, we've managed to find language we all are happy with, which I think is a testament to what you've achieved, John, despite all our other comments and battles in the past. I think bringing together a lot of people who tout flow, talk about flow and different versions of flow and how to measure flow, I think this is an achievement in itself, and I'm pleased to be part of it, and I think everybody else is too. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much, Nigel, and thank you for everyone as well who's involved. We really have been building bridges to as many communities as possible. We're hoping you'll see that a lot of your work is reflected in there, but as you can imagine, we couldn't just put everything from everyone and put it into one document. It would be just like, it wouldn't be
encyclopedia.
Yeah, so what we did was, when we thought there were some really gold nugget pieces in there, we said, okay, there are some ideas in there, but we say, well, you need to watch out for this, and you need to watch out for that. So we're not saying we're giving you a blessing that this is perfect technique, but we're saying we know these techniques exist. You might find them useful in context. These are some of the things you need to watch out for. Go forth and do your thing. Because we don't know what you're dealing with, right? So you'll make your own wise decisions. So thank you so much, Nigel, for being so involved as well in the reviews. Thanks to the other reviewers as well who are involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad to have seen all the contributions and to being part of that. So we'll see you all on the 2nd, everybody. Thanks for this. We're ending the broadcast now. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.